So this is the first of two performances I did that night, which was a karaoke version of Total Eclipse of the Heart. It feels like it contains a lot of ideas that I've continued trying to explore, develop, unpack, whatever, since. I don't know, I was really interested in, so ideas of the voice, singing, and like the power of projecting the voice. And that was kind of tied to ideas of like humiliation and like ownership. So it's like, is it humiliating if you choose to do this with full commitment? And I guess I was thinking about that along the lines of like what is humorous and what isn't as well, and how you can make things funny. And it's like, I think the difference is just like full commitment, and then it's like people will laugh because what else can they do?
Hello everyone, thanks for coming out. I'd like to dedicate this song to everyone that's ashamed of their voice.
I don't know, in like white Australian culture, I feel like singing is something that you might do when you're really pissed. You might go to karaoke Saturday night with your friends, and it's always like a bit of a joke. But the reality is that singing and song is like a really powerful way to connect to others, and it's like there's a whole lot of endorphins that get going, and it's like it opens up like the organs inside, you project out, and so singing with other people is like amazing.
Every now and then I get a little bit terrified, and then I see the look in your eyes. Every now and then I fall apart. Every now and then I fall apart.
That kind of idea of, like paralleling emotions, like the form of emotions through these pop songs, and how you how they really do resonate, whether we like to admit it or not, with a lot of people. And then I guess that idea of karaoke too, where it's kind of like, so there's the pre-existing structure, and then you kind of affix your voice, your emotion to it. So I studied at VCA, went through the painting department, and then did honours straight after, so finished up in 2014. So I've been out of art school for 3.5 years now. And it's so funny, like when I finished school, like I love studying, I love being at uni. It's like it provides a structure, you know what you're doing or something. But I felt such a relief. It felt like such a relief to finish being at art school and stop having to account to everything that you're doing, and I don't know, working to their pace. And I also felt like I remember one of the teachers saying to me, Kalinda, you've got to get your dinner party line down. Like, you've got to be able to summarise practice in a line. And I was like, but it's everything and it's complicated. Like, I disagree. And I still, like, I guess I still wrestle with that too. Like, you know, you apply for shows and shit and like meet people and whatever, and you need to explain what you do. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting closer to working out how to explain what I do without having to reduce it down to a dinner party conversation. So this is third year, and this was at Remedy, which is the performance night that I think they used to run. Yeah, I guess this was a bit of a turning point, like the kind of like the live performance aspect, and the sort of like, yeah, the embarrassment or the ownership of embarrassment. And then it's kind of like the contract between performer and audience as well. Yeah, and it goes into like issues of consent and stuff too, which, oh, it's so tricky. Like, I feel like I have done, in my performances every single time, I always feel a little bit distressed afterwards that I've like put people through an experience that they maybe didn't agree to, and they were there as my friend to support me, and then they had to like endure this like really embarrassing situation. In doing this performance, I realised that there is a contract, like there is exchange, and like for me, making art is very much about trying to find ways to connect in all sorts of different ways. But like, I think that's why, like at its core, one of the reasons why I have a performative practice and I am so interested in ideas of performance, like just as humans. And I also like, I mean, I have a theatre background, which, like, I studied theatre at uni first, and like as a teenager, I wanted to be an actor.
My friends, thank you so much. I can inform you that the Government of Australia has changed. You obviously enjoyed hearing it, so let me say it again. The Government of Australia has changed.
For me, inhabiting these other people was like relief and escape and like, yeah, like, I don't know, art, or like you discover things about the world through like losing yourself. The bus show was last year, and I guess that's like my most recent solo show. It was called Take It Back, and it was, I was in gallery 2, so it's like the gallery bus that has the windows running on two sides. So one goes out onto the street and one goes out into the laneway. Okay, look, I took my inspiration from Chemist Warehouse's displays. So it's like, you know, the big sticky stuff you put on the window and then you have your flat screen with the ad going. I'd got all of this pink vinyl and I covered all of the windows on the laneway side. So it was kind of censored and it kept what was happening within the gallery space private. I wanted to turn my back on the space itself, because what I was talking about was, yeah, it was founded in like ideas of consent, and I guess in particular it was like the male gaze and the way that it can be, like a body can be used and projected onto. So the intention with that work was to kind of create a work that sort of performed a lot of the tropes of sort of, I guess, like seduction or something, or like drawing you in, but then actually sort of like completely resisting that and maybe even throwing it back at the viewer. So I was trying to make work that sat in that moment between the viewer and the artist or the artwork. And yeah, I mean, like on the opening night, literally a truck drove down that little street. It's Rockaby, isn't it? Like down there, and actually stopped, and the guy like sat there and was like watching the videos, like this big fucking truck. And I was just like, shit. I mean, yeah. And I guess the irony of that work in some ways is that what I intended it to do was like to kind of like spit back at these people that kind of like project and take what they want, like spit back at them and resist them. They still were able to kind of like take something in the work being projected out onto the streets. It's like, you know, friends were put in this like, I guess like complicated position, and the audience, the viewer, a complicated position where they kind of like watched this video, which maybe they didn't really want to, or maybe they didn't want to see me acting like that, or yeah, it was non-consensual in that sense. So how do you keep yourself safe, and how do you separate yourself from the performance that you're making? And it's a really like messy line, if there is even a line. It just kind of like fades from one to the other. I don't know. It shifts all the time. And I guess like one protective mechanism I have is like once the work's made, like it's sort of not mine anymore. Like it exists as work in the world, and however people behave with it is what they do.